Okay, good morning everyone. This is Sachin Karnik here. Today is the 10th of January 2026. I want to welcome you all to our Angel Wing online retreat, first one in 2026. Our subject today is acceptance, which is a quantum quality. It is a quantum principle that we have identified in our Angel Wing program. These principles total in the number of 52 principles total. And this is the very first one. We have actually had retreats on this subject before, in person, as well as perhaps even some online activity has gone on with this in the past. We're going to go into this further because this is the foundation. There are so many aspects and ways to understand the power of acceptance, and then our goal is to actually move into that dimension. So I'm going to speak for a good half an hour or so, and we'll kind of take it from there. Okay, so I'm going to do a little screen share here with you, and I'll speak for a good half an hour here straight, and then we'll open it up for comments and questions. So we just saw two videos right now. I'm going to go through these points very carefully. You are free to interrupt me if you want, not to worry at all. Otherwise, you can wait until 10 o'clock, at which point we'll open it up for Q&A. I think some other people will be joining us pretty soon. Okay, so first of all, this word acceptance, it's a quality that we can potentially have. It is an active alignment with reality. So what is our reality? Reality of life, things that are going on in life, what's happened to our life in the past, where we are now. So that's the reality. It's an active alignment. So we're going to try to understand this now. So there are multiple points here. The first point here is that at its core, acceptance is neither a psychological retreat nor a spiritual bypass. All right, so what is acceptance? A brief definition: an active, conscious alignment with what is factually present prior to judgment or reaction. So we want to be very clear about the idea. So we need to be clear about the idea itself. What is the idea? When we use the word acceptance, when a person like me, let's say, if I say I'm accepting what has happened in the past, it means that I am actively, consciously aligning my mind, my thoughts, my emotions, my feelings, the TEMDE, with what is factually present. The facts. These are the facts that have happened. These are just the facts. And that's not easy to do. That's not easy to do because as soon as, like in my case, if I try to remember things, certain problems that have happened in the past, it's very easy to get so lost in that with judgment, with reaction, with justification, condemnation, blame, shame. All of this additional baggage gets connected to the fact. Now, so acceptance is an active, I would even say meditative process of consciously, deliberately aligning myself, my emotions, my feelings, my perspectives, etc. Just aligning who I am with what is factually present. For example, if someone criticized me in the past or yelled at me or something happened for a few years ago with somebody, the fact of that is just the fact of it. But generally, when I try to remember, and any of us, we try to remember a conflict from the past, we get drawn into that further. We analyze it, we try to resolve it, we try to justify it, we try to blame someone. It goes very, very, very quickly. It happens very rapidly. And that is exactly what we want to try to avoid or to prevent. That quick judgment or reaction. See the point number one that you can see here, and that in the parentheses, whenever you see parentheses, that's the definition, or at least it's a brief definition like a working definition of the word. Now, acceptance doesn't mean that it's a psychological retreat, that, oh, I just don't care about what happened. Who cares about what happened? I just cannot do anything about it. I'm just so, just kind of to resign oneself. Low energy comes. You get frustrated from inside because we really cannot change the past in many ways. And current situations, sometimes they really just can't be changed. We don't have control over them. But the point is, even though all of that is true, we cannot change the past, we may not be able to change many things that are going on. Acceptance is not a psychological retreat. Retreat meaning to pull away from the facts, pull away from the situation. If a conflict happened, let's say in my case with somebody a few years back, just as a hypothetical example, if it happened, I need to be able to observe that conflict, to accept it for what it is, factually present, and not retreat from that, not to bypass that. It's not some kind of a bypass to ignore that also. You see how interesting this becomes. But to be present to it. So now, further exposition on point number 1, you can see in the paragraph below. I'm going to read through this, then we'll talk about it. Acceptance involves recognizing and acknowledging reality as it is, without the interference of personal biases, judgments, or emotional reactions. That interference happens right away in most cases. And it happens so much, so they made a therapy out of this thing, this acceptance and commitment therapy. But it doesn't have to be, you don't have to necessarily go to a therapist unless you need to. This is something we can try to do on our own or in groups. In many ways it can be done, but it needs to be done somehow where the interference of personal biases has to stop. How can we make it stop? First of all, I have to be aware this is my bias, because my ego doesn't want to see the fact. It wants to see the situation, the incident, through my biased colored lens. I hope that's clear. And this is an internal process. It's an internal journey that you can take with a therapist or a good friend or a coach or a counselor or in groups, or we have angel wing groups and all that. It can be done in many ways. Here it can be done also, although this is not a therapy program. You can talk about it in a more general sense if you want. But the concept should be, let's be clear about the concept. The concept is that there is recognition of the reality of my life in the past, reality that is present now, and even reality that may come. Reality meaning things that have happened, things that will happen, that we know that things will happen. We may have to accept them. Now, that doesn't mean we are necessarily agreeing with it, or we're necessarily just kind of being judgmental. There's always judgment, but we have to leave that aside for the time being. We have to just be in touch with the fact. For example, a conflict, let's say, may have happened in the past, or maybe somebody praised me. Let's use a simple example. 5 people praised me 10 days ago. So I could be, looking for more of that. I like this thing. So it happened. That's the fact. Now, the point here is that acceptance is an active, conscious alignment with the facts themselves. Somebody praised Sachin, 5 people praised Sachin, 5 people criticized Sachin 10 days ago, let's say. Initially, somebody criticized, the same person praised. It's just simple, very simple example. It could be anything at all, because these things are very complex, obviously, complicated situations. But we use some simple examples. Now, to consciously align, first involves recognizing and acknowledging that incident. Okay, this happened. This is how it happened. This is what the person said. All right. This is what I said. This is what I was thinking. All right. Leave it that. That's the reality. Now watch out. Be aware. See it very clearly. Is there interference of personal bias? And this is a big problem, because our bias comes right inside that situation right away. We're not aware of our biases. So this is where a lot of the spiritual work and mantra sadhana and other kinds of more spiritual religious work can be very useful. So we are aware of our biases, and our ego doesn't get involved in that and makes those biases worse. Because what do the biases do? The personal biases, these are rose-colored lenses or narrow ways of seeing things in our own way. It causes interference. Biases cause interference in recognizing and acknowledging the reality of the situation as it is. And once Sachin's ego gets involved in that, in terms of biases, then that will lead to many, many more cascading reactions. It will lead to quick judgments. It will lead to a lot of analysis, unnecessary wastage of energy. It will lead to emotional reactions, and I will get caught up very quickly. It happens very fast. This happens so fast, we don't even realize that it's happening. Let's go on. Let's move on. Next sentence there. So acceptance also means that fully experiencing the present moment and its circumstances, which can lead to greater emotional resilience and clarity. So life is only in the present, first of all. But experiencing the activity that is going on in the present, externally, internally, memory-wise, thought-wise, emotion-wise, there's so much quick activity. It's quite involved, in fact. So acceptance means to fully experience the present moment, that this is, yes, I have an instinct of hunger, or I have a desire to go here, or whatever is going on there. To accept that, to fully experience the present moment and the circumstances surrounding the present moment. For example, I'm having a conversation with a friend. That's happening in the present. They make some statements which are I don't like what they're saying. I have to be aware of that. This is what's going on inside of me. All right. Maybe I agree with them. Maybe I disagree. Maybe this happened. When there's a disagreement, there's a lot of disturbance. It's not easy, right? Can there be a disagreement without disturbance? Very, very powerful. Because we're not losing energy in this. This is the point of our Angel Wing program. One of the major points is not to lose the PCE, personal core energy, not to damage that. We can utilize pieces of it, but not to damage it. So, to fully experience the present moment, because we're going to experience it anyway, experience it mindfully without bias, judgment, and reactions and all of that, and its circumstances. When we fully experience it, that this is happening, this is coming up in my mind, these thoughts are coming up, these memories are coming up, all right. And then to embrace that experience, that this is there, what does that lead to? With that, because I'm not putting my own bias in there, or judgments or reactions. If I'm doing so, I need to pull that out. If I'm putting biases, judgments, reactions inside my present experience, to be, again, it goes back to awareness. I'm doing this. Wait a minute, back off. Why am I doing this? That's damaging energy, it's damaging time, it's just getting me trapped. Pull it out. Mindfully pull it out. Take steady breaths in, do the alternate nostril breathing, do mantras, do spiritual prayer, but pull it out somehow. There's many ways. Many ways are there of pulling out of bias, pulling out of judgments, and pulling out of reactions. That pulling out from these three is what leads to greater emotional resilience and internal clarity. So this is a minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day. It's just life. This is life. Our Angel Wing program is for every human being. It's open for everyone to do this. Can it be done? Yes. Is it done just by listening to these ideas the first time? No, not necessarily. It'll take some time to contemplate, to try to practice, to be aware that I'm wasting time and energy and God knows what I'm doing, but also to conceptually understand. Our goal here right now in the retreat is to conceptually understand this, and then eventually, through the PTP program, other programs, to actually bring it into practice, into life, from conceptual to actual. That is a transition. But the concept should be very clear. If there's even the slightest distortion, it's not clear, it needs to be talked about, it needs to be probed until it becomes absolutely clear. That, and that's what is meant here. It all leads to greater emotional resilience and clarity. Now, what is emotional resilience? Bouncing back. My emotions can get stuck somewhere. I can bounce back. I can bounce back beautifully. And so the energy within emotion is now conserved. It's not damaged. Because our tendency is to funnel a lot of energy. See the full cycle. And see, this is awareness of that full cycle. That there was this conversation with the husband, this happened, that happened, then you got upset, and then there's regret afterwards. So if you can perceive that whole cycle, which you are able to do now, so accept that happened, that just happened factually, and don't put more energy into that. You see, so the tendency is to say, oh, this happened yesterday, I shouldn't have done this, why did I did this, this could have happened, that could have happened. We keep analyzing. Yeah, we do need to understand it. But to accept the reality, see, this is the point here. You can see it on the screen there. It's a conscious alignment with what factually is present. What happened factually, that this argument happened. So that's the fact. All right. So now you leave it there. Now, the judgment and the reaction that is still going on, that may still be going on, that is unnecessary. What is necessary is rather wisdom about the fact, and where you are able to acknowledge and to recognize it and fully experience to be aware that this is the cycle. Now, what is the wisdom that is coming from that? You see, the wisdom that is coming from that is going to bring, we'll talk about that in a moment, that wisdom is that steadiness, steady clarity of where that reaction came from. Now you can look at it and see this reaction came from here. I can see it, I can understand it. I don't want to blame myself. I don't want to judge the situation. I want to understand what is going on there. And once I see that this reaction began at this particular trigger point, then next time I'll be aware of it, that won't happen that way anymore. So that is what brings resiliency. See, right now what you're describing is where there is still analysis going on of that incident. That this is going on, this should have happened, that should have happened. Because there's regret, there's blame, there's shame. Something small happened and it just sparked off. Okay. But when we are accepting that this happened, don't overanalyze it. See, look at the definition again on top. Acceptance is an active, conscious alignment with what is factually present. The argument that happened yesterday, or in anybody's life, something happened yesterday, there was an argument, there was a conflict, whatever it was, and then there was a reaction against it, and then there was regret. So that entire set of emotions, talks, verbal context, you see it, that is the fact. That is a fact. So, okay, because it's a fact, now the question is, can you stay with that fact, or how to stay with that fact without judging or reacting? Now, so you'll say, how do you do that? How do you stay with the fact without judging or reacting? Well, it's observation. It's acceptance. See, that's what acceptance is all about, that this incident happened. Look at the second line in the paragraph below here. I'll highlight it for you. It means fully experiencing the present moment and its circumstances. What you just described is in the present. What are the circumstances? Okay, this is what I was feeling, thinking, this and that. But now you say, wait a minute, I'm dumping energy into this thing. Though I cannot change it, first of all. But what can I do now that is going to be a guide for me for further, for watching out about how to deal with those kinds of things as I move ahead further? And that is what resiliency is about. You have an opportunity to be resilient because of that incident, rather than getting stuck inside that incident. Right? So it's an opportunity. Look at the entire set of events that happened yesterday as an opportunity now to be resilient. It's not simply that you're remembering that one incident, that argument, or what. This is just in general with anybody, but in your specific scenario, it's not just that. It's connected to so many other things that have happened in the past also, and because it's all connected inside our brain. Memories don't hang independently. They're called dendritic trees in the brain. So they hang together. So one incident will make you think of 10 other incidences from the past. They link together, and that causes tension and stress and analysis, and this is what happens. And it goes because our mind is spinning. We talked about that in the morning today, about the Manomaya Chakra, how fast this goes, right? So again, one of the most direct ways, this is the thing that we have been talking about, is to recognize the flow of energy in this. Point is, the energy is getting damaged in this. And what are you getting out of it? You're not getting anything out of it. But so take that same Shakti, that same energy, and now gain wisdom, emotional resilience. That I want to be resilient. I want to use this incident for my development. I don't want to use it I don't want to drown in the mud with that. Like, for example, if I fall in the mud, then I want to use that as an opportunity to take a fantastic bath with nice scents and everything. I don't want to be crying about the fact that I'm inside the mud. If you fall into a mud pit, shouting and screaming and rolling around, making yourself even more dirty and muddy. No, it's an opportunity to actually take a nice beautiful shower and put on some nice lotions and do a nice shaving and this and that, and how beautiful. What a great blessing that was. You see the difference? You see the difference. I mean, think of it this way. If a person, I hope you don't mind my using this example, if a person falls into a gutter, right? Into like a really nasty, foul smelling place. What are you going to do? Shout and scream and yell and this and that? No, you have to get up and clean it off. And put on nice clothes and put on nice lotions and be in a state of joy. So humanity is stuck in the gutter. This is the fact of the matter, unfortunately. Just to clarify, sometimes you may need some help from somebody for something or another, but that help is not that person is necessarily going to solve your problem. I mean, they may, if it's like some physical injury or something is like that, then that's a different, but you still have to go to the doctor, you have to go to the ER, you have to do what you have to do to get that thing resolved so that you can move on. Right? So that in our first Angel Wing retreat, our whole theme was total personal responsibility. So if I'm not responsible for myself, and if I'm expecting 5 other people to take care of my problem, that's not going to happen. I mean, they might be able to assist somehow, but I have to be 100% responsible that I'm not going to be stuck in this mud anymore. It's a mud. It's trash. It's nothing other than that. And to waste time, energy, effort, I want to use that to develop. Because as you know, I went through very, very difficult time. Several times it happens in my life. 3 times it happened. You may not know the whole story. Maybe I can tell you sometime if you really want to know. But it happened 3 times. And every time I had to get up out of that thing and say, I'm not going to fall into this mess. Whatever it was, it doesn't matter. I have to get out of it. And I have to move on. If I don't do that, my life will be ruined. I'll ruin myself only. Because I went through these things, so when Dr. Chaitanya and we sat together many, many hours at her home, at my place also, and these 52 principles these are quantum principles. Because this is why we have these retreats in angel wing. This is exactly, because we have our own limited understanding of these words. The word like accepting, everybody uses this word, right? But everybody has their own mindset about or thinking about what that means. What we're trying to do is to open the mind to that. It's not that in that limited sense only. There's much more to it, like what you just said right now. Okay, I have certain limitations, but wait a minute, is it really a limitation, or is it something I can grow out of? I have to really look at that, right? I can do something to deal with that limitation rather than being withdrawn due to the limitation. There's a big difference. So you see how the word acceptance, in your mind and in many people's mind, they just say, I have to accept my life situation, I have to accept this. They have put a lot of limitation. Acceptance is not about just enhancing limitations and getting stuck somewhere. No, not at all. Now, there might be certain limitations that, if somebody's truly handicapped or something like that they have to, but even then they have to make progress out of that. This is why we have these discussions and dialogues specifically to clarify all of this. We don't talk to each other about these things. We have stopped talking to each other about these things. We have prefixed ideas. We're stuck in them. And so our goal is to try to open ourselves to see this from multiple perspectives. And the dialogue process, the conversations we're having, is very, very important. The ideas, there's so many. I have like almost 200 pages of notes on this, on this subject. Information is there. I've done the research on it. As you know, I don't like to present anything unless I've spent good 10, 15 hours doing my research. I should know it thoroughly. I have to spend 15, 20 hours on that thing to study that properly. That's just my own standard. So I've been studying this now for the last couple of weeks, and I know from my background research how much is involved in this. We're just touching the surface of this, actually. Even what we talked about so far, this is just the very beginning. Energy. I don't want to put energy into this thing. End of the matter. It stops it right there. If you keep attention on my thoughts and my analysis, and why am I using my internal power for this reason? So that is like the master key. But if that is not directly possible, then all of these other concepts and ideas will definitely come into the picture, right? Okay, so we're continuing from where we left off here. It's a most fascinating journey. See, so let's take a look at this. Let's look at that paragraph again. Acceptance involves recognizing and acknowledging reality as it is, without the interference of personal biases, judgments, or emotional reactions. Right? That is our goal. We want to be in that state. Now, these 3 things, biases, personal biases, judgments, and reactions, they happen very quickly. They happen right away because of in our memory structure. We access that biases happen in our current life experiences, right? So it happens throughout. We want to pull ourselves away from that. That's a distancing. That's the two videos we saw talked about that. So acceptance means fully experiencing the present moment and its circumstances. By accepting it, by recognizing it, by experiencing it, we are not retreating from that or bypassing that. We are moving into a dimension of greater emotional resilience and greater mental clarity. Okay, so that's the second point. Now, this concept encourages an open-minded approach to life. That's the whole point of Angel Wing. One of the biggest points of the entire Angel Wing structure and program is to open our mind further. If the more constricted we are, as just we were talking about one or two things just right now, the more constricted we are, the more contracted our energies, our thoughts, our feelings, and our vision gets very much restricted. Right? So the concept, first of all, in our retreats, we want conceptual clarity. Each and every point needs to be crystal clear. That is our recommendation. If it's not, talk about it, discuss it. We have plenty of forums to do all that in. So the concept encourages an open-minded approach to all 12 dimensions of life. How many dimensions are there? There's 12 general dimensions in everyone's life. Open-minded approach. And an open mind means to be present to all experiences, and the way the mind remains open is to be aware of bias, judgment, and reactions. 3 points. Okay, so that awareness is what, I see I'm getting biased here. Pull it out through mantras, through prayers, through different kinds of breathing techniques. Pull the thoughts and emotions, and in Sanskrit we say vritti. Pull it out of that. That this bias is here, pull it out from there and bring it back inside so that clarity can shine. This is an internal transformative journey. It can be done in therapy with a therapist. It can be done. That's what therapists try to do. It can be done by yourself also. It can be done with a group of friends. It can be done with a pastor or a clergy person. It can be done in a lot of different contexts, but it has to be done somehow. So the concept of acceptance encourages an open-minded approach to life, fostering a sense of peace. What happens inside? We start to experience stability, a peaceful inner being, peace. That peace is not a lack of energy. It is the summation of energy, summation of the intrinsic core, the PCE, personal core energy that we've talked about in our Tuesday evening programs. It is harnessing that. It is harnessing that. So peace is not lack of energy. Peace is the reservoir of energy and reservoir of potentiality. Peace is the reservoir of potentiality, allowing for more constructive responses to challenges. Life is filled with challenges. There's all kinds of challenges, physical challenges, mental challenges. I was just telling you about myself, about my hypersensitivity to the cold weather. But I've taken active steps, through guidance of certain individuals, to take active steps to change that. Now, I can simply just resign and say, I just can't do this. I just can't. I'm finished. No, I can't. I can go for 2 minutes outside. Then I can go for 5 minutes outside. I can increase the time. And that with the physiology, there's things that can be done. So the response to a challenge, to a situation, a circumstance, is a constructive response, not a self-destructive, self-limiting, or other limiting, other damaging response. No, not that kind of response. Okay, now, let's look at the next sentence. Every sentence here is filled with wisdom. We need to really... It's not about my covering the material. You can see the number of pages in the left corner. 216 pages of notes are here. Because I've been looking at this for the last 3 weeks or so. There's a lot of stuff to talk about, but we don't want to go fast. We want to really absorb. Even a few ideas absorbed is more than hundreds of pages of stuff. This is just my background research. Now, it's amazing, right? Now let's look at the next sentence very carefully. By actively aligning, I'll highlight it here for you so you can see that. By actively aligning with what is factually present, individuals can cultivate a deeper sense of awareness and focus on responding thoughtfully to their experiences rather than reacting impulsively. Let's look at that sentence very carefully. First of all, there is active aligning. What is aligning? What does that mean to align? alignment has to do with balance. A simple example that we've given in other forums, the four-wheel alignment. When you go to the car dealer, they do the tire rotation, they put the right amount of pressure, and they have to do wheel alignment. So the steering wheel and everything is aligned properly. You can drive without any problem. Isn't it so? Car wheels have to be aligned. Alignment means balanced properly with the right amount of air and everything, just like that. Active alignment is where Sachin here, or each of you, deliberately, consciously aligns oneself with the facts, F-A-C-T-S, with what is factually present. Again, remember, to do that, recognize personal bias, judgments, and emotional reaction. These three, if they're going on, be aware of it, recognize it, and pull them out from there. And that's difficult to do. That's why we have all these meditation techniques. But it has to be done at the moment that there is an attempt to actively align. Because we'll not be able to actively align with the factual present just like that, just because Sachin said it or because it's written on a piece of paper, that we can just do that. No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Factual alignment, or factually, to be aligned with what is factually present, sounds very nice. I like to talk about it right now. Maybe you're listening to it, you can say, oh, that sounds very good. Is it actually happening? To make that happen, it's awareness that I'm moving away from that factual alignment. I'm going into a bias state. I'm making quick judgment, pull back. I'm reacting somehow. I need to know that. And then to pull that out, pull that away. That pulling that away, meditation helps. Alternate nostril breathing helps, mantras help, spiritual work helps, praying to God helps, doing whatever. There are thousands of ways of going about it. And we can talk about that also. Techniques are available. But I can only do it if I am deliberately, consciously aligning, which is what is meant by active alignment. Not, it sounds like a good idea, maybe I'll do it. It's not like pie in the sky and, just like, it sounds, not that kind of thing. Then that will not be a quantum dimensional shift. A quantum dimensional shift, because this is our first, number one, out of the 52, this is our first quantum quality. And why is it a quantum quality? Every single sentence that is in these pages here is a dimensional jump into that quantum quality of acceptance. It's a jump from the bound state, from the limited state, from the state of reactions and judgments and biases and this and that, from all that mixture into that state of clarity and resiliency and just building a beautiful, energetic, fantastic life all the way around. And all of our programs, whether it's Dr. Berman's, Dr. Chaitana's, all of the other Tuesday evening and everything else we do, it all hangs together. It all comes together inside of us. That's the only place where it's going to come together. It comes together inside of each person. So by actively aligning with what is factually present, we as individuals, because that's what we are, individuals, and by the way, that word individual, if you look at the etymology, it means a non-divided person. That's a true individual. Indivisible. It has that kind of root. But anyway, individuals can cultivate, and it is a cultivated phenomena. It's a cultivated, deeper awareness. My mind is going here. My emotions are going there. I'm thinking, I'm speaking. When we are speaking words, somebody was just talking a few minutes back about some conflict. Because it's an internal reaction. We want to thrash somebody, want to do this, and all this stuff is going on. So, it's the cultivation of a deeper sense of awareness. It's cultivated, like you have the ground that is cultivated with fertilizers and all that kind of stuff. Then the seeds will grow and plants will grow and everything will grow. So active aligning process with what the facts are, we can increase our awareness. We cultivate awareness. And in that awareness, there is the pulling out of our emotions and thoughts and feelings and stuff that we're doing out of what doesn't belong. And then, after pulling unnecessary wastage of energy away from all of that, we can then focus on responding thoughtfully. Because we're not rejecting the experience. This is, we've talked about this before with regards to the internal family systems model, right? We have all kinds of pieces inside of us. We have a compassionate response to them. We recognize them for what they're. That's what this is all about. It all connects with that same idea. But we're not reacting. What we are doing instead is finding out how to respond thoughtfully, which doesn't cause entanglements, which doesn't cause energy damage, which doesn't entrap us further into reaction after reaction after reaction, because that will damage the body also. So we respond thoughtfully. Our focus, the internal focus, is on thoughtful responding rather than a reactive, quick, judgmental response. And that is the art of remaining continuously free. That's why this is a quantum quality. It's a quantum jump. It's extraordinary in the meditation techniques, prayers, spiritual paths, religious paths. All of that is a backdrop that aids thoughtful responding. It aids everything we're talking about here. You can see the point number 1, the main sentence is in bold, its exposition is below in the paragraph. So I've taken these sentences, and there's an exposition for each sentence. And then we can go into it and really try to internalize, to realize, rather than to simply fantasize. So let's look at that sentence again. It's highlighted right there in front of you. By actively aligning with what is factually present, individuals can cultivate a deeper sense of awareness and focus on responding thoughtfully to their experiences rather than reacting impulsively. And that's a big difference. The impulsive means, impulse comes, react and say something. It happens with language. We say something to somebody, we use word strong, sometimes just one sentence or a few words spoken it can damage years of relationship. I've seen it happen. 15 years, 20, 30 years of excellent relationship can be damaged with one sentence. That is the power of language. We have an impulse, our ego wants to impulsively go after it, and then it causes damage. A lot of damage. Very quickly it can cause a lot of damage. Okay, so this is the point number 1. We're going to take a break in just 10 minutes. I'm going to speak for another 10 minutes. You can interrupt me if you want anytime. We just have 3 people online, but this is being recorded for the future. So let's look at point number 2 here. Hold on one second here. Let me just delete this thing here. Just a second, please. All right, so let's get rid of that. I wonder what happened here. Hold on one second. I don't know why. For some reason that is not getting deleted. I don't know. Okay, hold on a second. Sorry. Just a moment here. It's gotten some kind of a formatting thing is there. I'm not sure what that is. Anyway, we'll leave it alone for now. Let's look at point number 2. Okay, but there, it deleted that thing. Okay, so let's look at point number 2. Rather than disengaging from reality, acceptance represents a precise and deliberate contact with what with actuality as it is. Let's look at that sentence carefully. We're not disengaging from reality. What does the word reality mean, by the way? Reality comes from the word real. Our experiences are real. Our life is real. Our life is going on, Things that have happened is also part of the reality in our memories, in our life experiences. Reality all the way around. So we're not disengaging or escaping from reality. No. That's not what it is at all. Acceptance represents a precise and deliberate contact with what actuality, or with actuality as it is. As it is. For example, if you're driving in traffic and now there's a big traffic jam, how many people get frustrated? And you can see the frustration increases, right? So acceptance of the reality that this is a traffic jam. I have to be steady. I have to accept it. I'm in contact with the real. I have to make maneuvers, whatever I have to do. So I'm not disengaging from it, just shutting off my car and saying, I just to sit here now. That's it. Let cause even more traffic jam. No. It's like that in life. Things happen. Sometimes obstacles come. Sometimes difficulties come. Whatever may come. Who knows what will come. What has come already. So it is a precise and deliberate contact with actuality as it is. That's pretty amazing, folks. Let's try to unpack that. What does that mean actually? What is precise contact with actuality? So for example, I'll just use myself as an example. You can use yourself in your own way. I'll look at some memories. I can look at some memories from the past. That's one way. I can look at my life right now. What is the reality right now? There's three people, including me. So there's 3 people online right now. Right? My mind could be thinking, why aren't more people coming? You could wind up in analysis of stuff that has nothing to do with anything at all. I could wind up doing that. It would interfere with my precise contact with my reality giving this presentation right now. What is my duty? To do this presentation well. Even if nobody came, I would still make this recording and do it. But if few people are there, fine. More good. It's beautiful. If 100 people are there, beautiful. If 1,000,000 people are there, beautiful. If one person is there, beautiful. Did I do my duty? Is my intention in the right place? You see, this is the whole point. Precise and deliberate contact with the actuality as it is. Just right now. Because I'm in the present. Now, I could also look at it in terms of some memories. I could look at it in terms of my relationships. I could look at it in terms of my conversation with my mother that I'll have tomorrow morning, or with my brother, or with friends, or with whatever. Reality is everything. It's all of life. And this has a much broader realm, not just our reality during the waking time. We're talking about reality during the nighttime. That's even a more advanced notion. The dream state. We won't go into that right now. We have to clean up the waking state first. Then the dream will take care of itself. It's very powerful. Every single sentence here is filled with jam-packed wisdom. And that is what we want to tap into, right? So let's understand it clearly. So precise contact. Why precise? Why that word? Because it's not a distorted contact. It's not some kind of a partial contact. It is the right type of contact, and it's deliberate, which doesn't disturb the fact, because the fact actually cannot be disturbed, but we don't get disturbed by the contact. Think about this. Really, it's worthy of lot of reflection. Do we have precise contact with our family members? Precise and deliberate contact with what actually is, as opposed to our fantasies, our biases, our beliefs, our this, our that, all the chaos inside. No. So we're not disengaging with reality. Rather than disengaging from reality, in this case, let's say family members or friends or occupation or this or that, whatever it is, all of reality, problems at the global level, wars going on, all these things that are constantly going on. We're not disengaging with any of it. But there's a precise and deliberate contact with reality, with actuality as it is. Why? Why is that? That brings freedom. It brings the best quality experience of life. Life becomes better. And then we can then respond in the best possible way as needed. Now let's look at the little bit more exposition on that. Look at point number 2, the paragraph, the bigger paragraph. So that sentence that you see in the bold there, the paragraph below is just a more elaborate way of putting those ideas together. So that's a powerful way to describe acceptance. This sentence here that we just read, it emphasizes that acceptance isn't about passivity or resignation, which many people think it is. They think, I'm accepting, I don't do anything, I'm just passive, I'm just resigning from life, I cannot do this, I cannot do that. No, you have to get up and move on, get up with a lot of good energy and move on. It's not a passivity, and it is not resignation, which many people unfortunately think of acceptance that way. That's not what it is. It is an active engagement with the present moment and the truth of our circumstances. The truth of our circumstances, not my biased, my confabulated stuff or somebody else's viewpoints, which may not be truth. Truth is truth, folks. And one has to delve into how to discover what is that truth, actually. That is not based on biases, opinions, beliefs, or perspectives. It is not based on those things. It is independently existing by itself. That is called truth. That is called truth. Now, we'll go further into that. If you have questions or comments, we'll take a break in just 2 minutes here. But it takes time to really actually unravel truth, to be in touch with truth, because it's very difficult to do that because of biases, opinions, judgments, limited perspectives. It prevents us from seeing the actuality. And until we can be steady enough, silent enough, mindful enough to see that actuality, to see the truths of our life, of others, of what's happening. Truth is not an opinion. This is a subject for philosophy, really. In the Sanskrit language, we call it satyam. The word is satyam. Satyam means that which eternally is real. Satyam means that which is real. That which is true, that which exists, that which is not based on opinion, perspective, biases, or judgments. It's not based on any of that. It is existing by itself. And that is the whole point of acceptance, is to tap into truth that is independently existing, irrespective of all of these preconditions. Amazing. That's why this is a quantum quality. Why is this an angel wing quantum quality? Because of its intense focus on truth. Truth is not an opinion. Truth is not a distortion. Truth is not something we can escape from, because truth always exists at all times. It is eternal. Personal truth, familial truth, cosmic truth, transcosmic. Truth has many layers to it, but truth is always truth. Scientific truth, psychological truth. Truth cannot be ever changed. So it is active. See this, that acceptance is an active engagement in the present, with the present moment, because that's life, and the truth of our life circumstances. The truth of everything. Life is nothing but circumstances. How circumstances in life are not two different things. How are they two different things? They're not two different things. Let me just make 1 or 2 points and we'll take a quick break. I know we're at 10:31 already. By creating a precise and deliberate contact with actuality, we allow ourselves to see things more clearly, without distortion of distortion that is created from fears, hopes, and judgments. We'll get into that after on the other side of the break. Let's take a quick break here. Okay, welcome back, everyone. This is Sachin here. We're continuing our monthly retreat on acceptance. Let's take a look at the second paragraph in more detail. I'm going to read that again. So the sentence there was, rather than disengaging from reality, acceptance represents a precise and deliberate contact with actuality as it is. Very powerful idea. Now, what does that mean? So that's a powerful way to describe acceptance. It emphasizes that acceptance isn't about passivity or resignation. Rather than it's an active engagement with the present moment and the truth of our circumstances. By creating a precise and deliberate contact with actuality, we allow ourselves to see things more clearly without the distortions of our fears, hopes, and judgments. So we're going to look at this sentence now, next, carefully, step by step. All right, let's be very, very mindful of what is meant by precise contact. That's an interesting way to put it. Do we have precise contact with our immediate circle that is around us? Our friends, our pets, our relatives, our extended relatives? What does that mean actually? What is meant by precise contact? Well, let's look at the word that is opposite of that, imprecise, or distorted contact, or mixed up contact. Some kind of contact where there is perhaps getting stuck with the individual. Precise contact means that there's contact, first of all. But it's precise in what sense? This is just my interpretation, and I can do some more research on it. But I think it has to do with not getting stuck with that contact. This is point number one. Like a screwdriver, I'm just using this as an example, and the screw. They have to have contact, and then you have to turn it. But can you imagine if the screwdriver got fused with the screw? What will happen? It doesn't work. Precise contact means you have contact to some extent to do for some purpose, and then pull back. Just like a screwdriver, you pull it away from the screw, it no longer has that contact. It doesn't need that contact anymore. It's done its job, it's done. This is just a very crude example, maybe not the best one. Something that just came to my mind. But you know what happens if you have a Phillips screw and you have a flat screwdriver? It'll still work. But if you have a flat screw and you have a Phillips screwdriver, it doesn't work. Everybody knows this. That is what's meant by precise. When we are, let me just talk about this directly here for a moment. When we are in contact with others, this is a question regarding precision. Is the contact precise? It's not a word that is used at all in relationships. Has anybody ever heard that? To have precise contact with a family member? We can say, I want good contact, I want harmonious contact, I want this, and I want, we use that language. But the word precise has a lot of interesting meaning behind it. So this is again just my commentary on this, and you will have to look at it in your own way. Precise means the right amount of contact, the right amount of engagement, the right type of contact, the right amount, the quantity of energy placed in that contact, the non-entanglement with that contact. Wow. The acceptance of the other person's reality without bias, judgment, distortions, etc. You see, so much is involved in precision contact. It's a tough one. First of all, we have not thought in this direction. The language is also, as we were just saying before, this language we don't use. But if we really go into it, we'll see the freedom and the joy that is coming from precision contact. Because acceptance means here that I have to accept what the contact that I have, whatever I'm having contact with, I have to accept that's what it is. And then through the contact, maybe it can be modified. I'll be modified, it can modify me, it can modify the other person, other situation also. Yes. And that's the way life goes. But more often than not, there is many times entangled, conflicted contact. And that's a problem. So, again, this is just Sachin's commentary and interpretation. That conflicted, entangled, distorted, biased contact is very different from precise contact. Very different. Very different. And that separation in the Sanskrit language, we can call that viveka. In English, we would call that the discriminative ability of the intellect to separate these two. Because we have an intellect, yes, hopefully, we have an intellect. Hopefully, we're not just running blindly. We shouldn't be running blindly at all in life. We need to have a discriminative. Discriminative doesn't mean racial discrimination, one versus another. That's not how this word is used here. A discriminative intellect is what is called viveka in Sanskrit. And it means in this difference, clear-cut, black and white difference between entangled, distorted, ego-laden, energy-draining contact, internalization of another's problem inside, that is on one side. All of that stuff is on one side. And on the other side is precise contact. Amazing. What an amazing distinction this is. First, Sachin's humble recommendation to myself and to others, be clear about this. And acceptance as a quantum quality means that with such an I, the psychological I, having contact with people, places, situations, circumstances, politicians, TV shows, whatever I'm having contact with, is there internalization of that external reality, external person, being, whatever is going on external? Am I internalizing it in a way that is causing distortion, damage, energetic drain, etc.? It's causing the spinning inside, is causing problems for me. It's causing difficulty. Is that happening? It's an important question. Now, how does acceptance fit into this? Yes, life is nothing but contact with others. There's no life without contact. So to accept another person or people or situations, circumstances as it is, the reality of it, acceptance doesn't mean you're agreeing with what's going on or just kind of passively, all that misunderstanding has to go. We're in contact with what is, that's what it is. It's an objective, unbiased perception, and from that unbiased, objective, clear perception, there is contact through the non-bias, not contact with preconceived ideas, notions, and whatnot, and trouble, and then contacting in such a way that you get stuck with each other, enmeshed with each other, and problems happen. Not that kind of contact. So precise contact, of course, there's contact verbally, emotionally, intellectually, in intimacy relationships, sexually, for example. There's all kinds of contacts are there. And there is a sharing of experiences. There can be closeness in the contact. The contact can remain intact. But it's not the kind of contact where the other person's problems, distortions, difficulties, distresses, or whatever is going on is internalized. I'll give you a simple example. If you have a cardiologist, because I have a cardiologist, I go to see them maybe once a year now. There were 2 stents placed in my heart and all that. So the cardiologist has patient after patient after patient after patient, 5 days a week or 6 days a week, whatever hours they work. They have to have contact with their patients. They look at their chart, they look at what's going on, they look at medicines, they look at the situations. The person may be depressed, they may be sad, they may have 1,000 questions, whatever is going on. The doctor has to respond in the right way. There's a contact there. But the doctor cannot internalize the person's problems and make it inside. That you have a heart problem, I cannot wait to have the same problem you have. Does that make any sense at all? Does that make any sense at all? But this is what we do with our relationship structures. 5 people have issues, we make them our own. We bring it right inside as if their life and death is... You bring it inside of us, you're just adding to the problem. Rather than a precise, meaningful, mindful, helpful contact, we have added to the problem. It's like a heart surgeon, opens the heart and tries to do the bypass surgery and gets overwhelmed and has a heart attack on with the surgeon. Does it make any sense? How does that help the patient? You'll kill the patient and kill yourself also. This is what we are doing in humanity. This is why acceptance is important, because when we are interacting with other individuals, we are internalizing their deficiencies, they are internalizing our deficiencies, and hence that expression, misery loves company. So this is a technology. This is angel wing technology, if you want to call it that. It's for the technology that's not the purview of just angel wing. It's available to everybody. But this is our program. We are trying to present these ideas. It's a technology of precision contact. Just like the heart surgeon, just like the doctor, has to have precise contact, mindful, meaningful, with flexibility with their patients, but they don't internalize the problems of the patients. When they leave the office, they have to leave all the patients there. They don't carry them around. They'll wind up depressed and anxious and wind up having serious problems. You try internalizing other people's stuff. Acceptance has to do with precision contact. Okay, now, having said that, let's go to the next point. It's amazing stuff, absolutely tremendous. Let's go into this here. So by creating a precise and deliberate contact with actuality, let's understand that a little bit further. Folks, it is a creation of deliberate contact, of precision contact. It's not, sometimes we don't realize that we have the capacity to choose that precision and to deliberately have the right amount of contact with actuality, with people, places, circumstances, the entire reality outside. You're going for a walk, driving a car, going to a restaurant, working at a place somewhere. Me right now, giving this presentation. Every experience in life can be, if we want it to be, precise and deliberate contact with actuality. Now, why is the word actuality used? With what is actually there. Just like the doctor who sees the blood report and sees what's going on with it, he or she has to interact with the patient with what's actually going on. But how can the doctor do that until and unless they're aware of what is actually going on? They have got to get the whole picture first. And then from that awareness, that study, that vision, then the right decisions are made. Isn't that how medical science works? Isn't that how medical practice works? That's how psychology works and therapists. I used to do that for the therapy work for many years, right? That's how it works. I have to understand the whole situation first, then I can figure out what to do next. That is called actuality. Not my distortions or biases. Can you imagine a physician or a psychologist or somebody having their own preconceived notions about the patient without even understanding the patient, and then just going with whatever is in their mind? Will that work? They'll damage the patient and damage themselves also. That's why this sentence is extremely potent. By creating a precise and deliberate contact with actuality, what happens? We as individuals, we as living beings, we allow ourselves to see things more clearly. It doesn't say, the sentence doesn't say totally clearly, because that's the goal. That doesn't just happen, but our clarity increases. We can see things better. We can see things clearly, see people more clearly, what's really going on there, as opposed to my own confabulated, distorted perceptions and biases and limited perspectives. Perspectives are important, but be aware of the limited perspectives. They are damaging. So we allow, now see the word allow. Every word has meaning here. We allow ourselves. If we don't allow ourselves, we'll never do this actually. We have to give permission. Sachin has to give permission to himself to see myself and others and the reality in general more clearly. That power we have. That's part of self-mastery. When we talk about self-mastery, this is all part of self-mastery. That's the guiding principle, one of the key guiding principles, and they're all together, right? If I don't allow myself, first of all, let's back up. I have to be in touch with the fact that I have the power to allow myself to see things clearly. If I don't even see that, if I don't even acknowledge that, how can I see anything clearly? And once I begin to see the truth as what is really there, not based on my biases and judgments, but I can see it clearly, and biases and judgments may come at some point, but we are aware of that because that requires openness to be able to see things clearly. What happens then? Our interaction with others is without distortion. And what causes that distortion? Fear, hope, and judgment. Hope in the negative, hope in the sense that, things should happen my way. Maybe the word hope should be understood in that way, not like, the positive sense. See, the distortion of our fears, because our fears cause distortion, and the distortion causes fears. Distortion of hopes. Hope is a beautiful thing. Distortion of hope leads to hopelessness. Distortions created by judgments, and judgments create distortions. Amazing. Right, now, having said that, let's go to the next sentence. Let's go to the next sentence. I'm going to read the sentence and we'll really go into it carefully. Just give me just a moment here so you can see that. There you go. This grounded awareness can facilitate better decision making. Now look, folks, this is what life is all about. From the point we wake up in the morning till the point we are going to bed at nighttime and we are in the dream state, we don't have control over that. Up to that point, we are making decisions continuously. That's the way life goes. Life is nothing but decision making. But is the decision that is made verbally, mentally, physically, bodily, in every which way, food-wise and all that, every kind of decision in the 12 dimensions, is decision making, the process of making decisions, is it happening through grounded awareness? Another way to put that, the decisions we make will be through grounded awareness once these distortions and all the stuff we've talked about so far, which I won't repeat, when all that is clear inside, it's internal clarity, there's grounded awareness. See, that's a beautiful word, 2 words. And this is why in Eastern traditions there's emphasis on mantra sadhana, mantras. We talked about that in our morning satsang a lot. Why is that relevant? Because that is going to ground us. That is the power of Sanskrit mantras, for example. Christian prayers, Jewish prayers, mantras, prayers. These are very powerful because what do? They ground our mind into awareness. That, I can see what is happening without bias. I can see myself. I have a better way I can deliberately contact reality, precisely all this thing we just talked about. It all brings about, see, this, the word this there refers to everything we've talked about so far. This grounded awareness, what can it do? What does it do for us? It makes our decisions better. Our decisions, how much to speak with somebody. Let's take language, for example. We talked about this, right? Quantity, quality, direction, dimension, depth, and structure. We're going to talk about that in the PTP program in more detail this year, and particularly in the 4th year. But this year is going to be more on the TEMDE. But you'll see what happens here. that the grounded awareness facilitates better decision making because the quantity, quality, direction, dimension, depth, and structure of our activity, like verbal activity, is got all 6 components are in harmony. That is called sustained self-mastery, year number 4. How much, a very simple example, when we're having a conversation with a relative, let's just say a relative, how much to speak? What to speak? See, quantity, how much? Quality, with what bhav, with what emotion? The quality of the speech, the tone of the speech, the genuineness of the speech, the genuineness of the interaction from inside. That's quality. Quantity, quality, direction towards the person. Is our mind wavering in 50 other places? Depth, how deeply to speak with someone. Something I have to be trying to be more mindful of in the last many years. My tendency has been to go too much into analysis and too much depth. My mother always told me for years, Sachin, stop, don't enough, baat ho gaya. And I've tried to work on that because that becomes a deficiency then. So quantity, quality, direction, dimension. What is the dimension of the conversation? What is the dimension of the conversation? It's pretty amazing. Dimension, depth. How deeply to go into the conversation. And then the structure. What is the boundary of the conversation? You see how this works. This is how powerful these ideas are. This is how powerful these ideas are, And it is such a beautiful way of living once we understand what is the power we hold. We hold this power intensely within us when we realize that we can live a life hour to hour, moment to moment, day to day without distortion of fears, hopes, and judgments, distorted hopes and all that. And with grounded awareness, better decision making, our decisions are going to be on the point. That because of enhanced intelligence, awakening of intelligence, as J. Krishnamurti has talked about that. Enhanced emotional well-being. Our emotions become healthy. Our emotions become healthy and we become internally wealthy. If our emotions are not healthy, we are poor from inside. We are sick from inside. It's called emotional sickness. Doesn't matter money, status, position, all those things might be there. A person may be very sick emotionally. And it doesn't help anyone. So we want to enhance grounded awareness, meaning a foundational, stable awareness. But all these points, what does it do? Because we want to see, why are we doing any of this? Our emotions are going to reach a state of well-being, emotional well-being, meaning our emotions are existing in wellness. They're functioning very nicely. Harmoniously, they're healthy emotions. That's the second point. And the third point is that we foster a sense of empowerment. Our empowerment, the word empowerment has the word power in there, P-O-W-E-R, energy. Empowerment is what? Accessing one's own core power, core personal energy, and using it to enhance oneself. That is empowerment. That's our whole program on Tuesday evenings. And when we do all this, we can then respond to situations which come about in life, time to time, from a place of clarity, lucidity, clear vision. It's very clear. Rather than confusion or denial. Confusion, denial, it doesn't promote solutions. We get confused. And if the confusion is there, what do? Resolve it. Using these principles. That's why this is all recorded. It'll all be available. Use these principles and try it out. And simply denying what's going on is not going to help. That's not acceptance. So ultimately, this form of acceptance leads to a more fulfilled and authentic life. What is the purpose of joy, happiness, authenticity, fulfillment. It's balance, enjoyment of life in its real sense. If you have any comments, please do make them. We have another half an hour here, so we'll continue further. So the third statement here, it occurs before evaluation, preference, or emotional modulation. Meaning what? Acceptance is what? It occurs before evaluation, preference, or emotional modulation, and therefore restores perception to its most accurate state. Because we're not evaluating something or just preferring something or getting into some emotional frenzy. No. Acceptance means we are being in touch with what is there and then leaving it alone. And then from that, our perception of it is very accurate. This statement beautifully highlights the concept of pure awareness or mindfulness, where we observe our experiences without the clouding influence of judgment or emotional response. We've talked about that already. By allowing ourselves to experience reality as it is without immediately categorizing it or reacting to it, we can access a more authentic understanding of our circumstances. That's the thing. We're not categorizing it, putting it away. We want to just be in touch with it, really. And then from there, we can proceed. This clear perception allows us to respond to situations with greater wisdom and intention. That's what we were talking about before. Greater wisdom, greater understanding. That is called jnana in Sanskrit. So that wisdom, our intention is much better rather than being driven by bias or emotional reactivity. In this way, we can cultivate a deeper sense of clarity and presence in our life. It's very, very clear. Should be absolutely clear at this point. And that's the beauty of this. So give me just a moment here. Acceptance does not imply approval, endorsement, or emotional neutrality. Many people think that's what that is, which it is not. Approval meaning just agreeing with or endorsing the circumstance. Now, you may not agree. You may not endorse what's going on. That's not acceptance. Endorsement, you don't necessarily have to endorse, actively support what is occurring. That is called endorsement. You may not support it. Or emotional neutrality, you're going to have strong feelings at times. So let's look at that further. Acceptance is often misunderstood as agreeing with or endorsing a situation, but it is much more nuanced than that. Acceptance means recognizing reality as it is, without necessarily liking it or approving it. It involves acknowledging circumstances, experiences, or feelings without trying to change or deny them. Don't need to change anything in the beginning. Just leave things where they are. Acknowledge the circumstance, the experience, the feelings, just as they are. This can include both negative and positive emotions. It is possible to accept sadness, anger, or frustration while still feeling those emotions deeply. In essence, acceptance is about making peace with the present moment, allowing us to respond to it more effectively rather than getting caught in resistance or denial. It can lead to greater clarity and the ability to move forward in a constructive way, even if we don't agree with what's happening. So let's look at some of the ideas there. Are there positive and negative emotions? Of course there are. Is it possible to accept sadness? To be in touch with. Accept doesn't mean that one is just being in a state of sadness. No, this is an emotion that's come up. You feel it, allow it to come. It's a wave. We talked about that before in our satsang program. It's a wave. It comes and it will go. Allow it to come, allow it to die down. Because that's not really who you are. That's another matter altogether. It's about making peace with the present moment. Because that ability to make peace with what's happening is what promotes freedom and harmony. And so that's the internal transformative journey. To make peace with what's actually happening, allowing us to respond to it more effectively rather than getting caught in resistance or denial. We get resistant, we wind up in denial, we wind up in this and wind up in that. And that's not useful at all. So it can lead to greater clarity and the ability to move forward in a constructive way. We have to move forward. That life is going on. So that is a constructive way that we can move forward. Even if we don't agree with what's happening. We may not agree with it, then we take some other steps to deal with it. I hope so. These points are pretty straightforward. It should be becoming more clear at this point. So instead, look at the fifth line here. Instead, acceptance signifies the cessation of internal conflict. It's internal conflict stops. This statement highlights a crucial aspect of acceptance, specifically the resolution of internal struggles that arise when our perceptions of reality with the actual circumstances we face. Our perceptions clash with whatever's really going on. Leave it there, and then interact with it in the precise contact. We talked about that just a moment back. Now, what's an internal conflict? Internal conflicts occur when there is a discrepancy between how we perceive a situation and how that situation actually is. For instance, if someone is facing a difficult life circumstance like losing a job, their perception might be filled with fear, anger, or frustration rather than the loss. They may feel inadequate or blame themselves, creating mental turmoil as they wrestle with their feelings versus the reality of the situation. Right? So if the difficult life circumstances is there, like God forbid losing a job or whatever, the perception can be filled with fear, anger, frustration, like that. They may feel inadequate, blame themselves, blame others. And that creates a lot of turmoil inside rather than looking at the reality. This is the reality. Now what do I do with it?